Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Daily Dead, Walking Dead discussion video topic. This one was viewer requested. We're going to be talking about when was the group the strongest. Right, so I hope you guys are staying warm this winter. The amount of snow we have here is absolutely ridiculous. It's just crazy and slowing down everything. So it's a good time for me to go ahead and make some videos, mine as well. This one, like I said, was viewer requested. People wanted to hear at least one person. Sorry, I forgot to write down your username on YouTube. Sometimes I forget. But basically, the question is, when was the surviving group, so Rick's group as we like to think of it, or in the comic books they've been given the name the Survivors, when were they the strongest? So if you took one version of them in one season versus another, which group would win, which would be tougher, and just all around, which was the strongest surviving group we've seen so far in the Walking Dead television series? We'll leave the comic books out of this because there's been so many different groups in the comic books, even more than there's been in the television series, that it doesn't make sense to compare. But just out of the first 3.5, or I guess, almost 4, since we're getting into the second half of season 4, the first 4 seasons, which version or which time was the group the toughest or the strongest? This is an interesting one because when I first read this, I thought to myself, oh, it's got to be around season 2, near the end of season 2, because in that time you have Shane, Rick, Daryl, T-Dog. You had, well, Laurie's not really tough, but Laurie was there. Carl was young. I guess he wasn't much of a threat at that point. And you had, let's see, Carol was there. She wasn't nearly as tough as she is now. But I guess the main thing, yeah, Glenn too, and a lot of the others. But I guess the main thing with that time is that you had Shane there versus later on, of course, he's not there. Laurie, T-Dog, I mean, yeah, T-Dog, I guess, it helps out a little bit too, like in season 3 when he dies. I do think that weakens the group a little bit more again. But it's hard to say because we see so much progression and so much evolution from the characters as they get tougher as the seasons go on. Season 1, Rick, who has trouble with killing one walker, is nowhere close to the Rick that storms the prison with the machete and even kills the other surviving prisoners there. For example, was it Thomas? Yeah, with the machete and all the other things he's had to do with Shane and all that. The progression, he's become so much tougher, so much stronger since the start of the zombie apocalypse, as all of the characters have. I mean, Daryl was tough to begin with, but now he's destroying tanks and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because, like I said, at first I was like, oh, it's got to be season 2 when Shane was there because Shane's so tough by himself, right? Damn, man. Well, okay, let's go like this. Season 1, no. You can rule out season 1 right away because, they hadn't changed all that much at that point. Season 2, near the end of season 2, that's to be considered, but here's the thing, too, though, is you have to consider, is Shane useful when he's fighting with Rick or when they're not getting along together? That weakens the group if you don't have a cohesive group with a strong leader. If you have two guys kind of fighting for leadership or fighting against each other, and you have to worry about them shooting each other in the back or that kind of thing, if they go up against another group like the governor or something like that, would Shane take the chance and kill Rick at some point? So that's the thing. If Shane was on Rick's side and they were together, leading the group, and they'd get along. Let's say Laurie was killed. That's a different situation, but that's not exactly what we saw. We saw them constantly at odds with each other, back and forth, disagreeing and fighting for control and leadership of the group because Shane had started it, and then Rick kind of came in and took it from him. So because they couldn't get along and they couldn't work together very well, sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. I think also, too, we may have to say that Shane's not necessarily that much of an advantage because him and Rick and the other characters in the group don't necessarily get along with him either, right? Season 3, we see some more transformation with the characters. We see them become even more dangerous, even better at killing walkers, better, probably more accurate at using guns because they're using them a lot more, faster, because they're constantly running around and doing things like that, stronger from constant killing of walkers and everything they're doing, the physicality of their lifestyle at that point, that I think, Shane aside, even if he was to get along with Rick in season 3, the group as a whole gets tougher. You do lose T-Dog, but then you add on later on Michonne. Andrea wasn't really part, so they did lose Andrea, which is, yeah, she's pretty tough, I guess you would say. She's definitely tougher than Lori and some of the other characters. And then, of course, let's see, did we lose anybody else? Well, not really, not in the immediate group. Not mid-season 3 anyway. So then let's move into season 4. Season 4, we have still, the core group that's there, and then we add on a lot of new members, like Tyrese, for example. He's pretty tough, but he's a terrible shot. But he is tough with a hammer and all that. Sasha, Bob, they're all really tough, I think, too. So you do have more. Are there more numbers? I think I'd have to sit down and actually compare who was alive at that time versus who was alive before. Daryl's toughest he's ever been. Rick is probably the toughest he's ever been. Well, I don't know. Not if he's not. Well, I mean, after he loses Lori, he kind of goes a little nutty there, right? So that affects it too. Man, this is a tough topic. This is a tough one. Damn it. There's things about each season where it's like Rick wasn't at his best in season 3, and then season 4, he does kind of get smoked by the governor a little bit. So he doesn't seem to be that tough at that time either, but he probably is, I guess we would say. It's just mentally maybe he's not as sharp as he was in season 2 with Dave and Tony at the bar and all those different types of things that happen. Darn it, man. Okay. I'll go like this. I guess the toughest the group has ever been, because Andrea's there and Shane's there. If Shane gets along with Rick, I think I'd have to say it would be at the end, near the end of season 2, before they go AWOL and kill each other. Dale doesn't really matter. He's not really that big of an effect there. Herschel was still there. I think I'd have to go with that as being the toughest version of the group. Because even though you do add on Tyrese and you add on Sasha and Bob and the others, we've lost characters over time. Carol, yeah, she becomes a lot tougher too later on, so that's... Yeah, but still, I think Shane is such a monster. If he got along with Rick... because at that time, he was kind of tougher than Daryl. If you remember earlier on, he smoked Daryl. Well, Rick and him did, right? In the first season. Season 2, it was kind of the same type of thing. You got the sense that he was like one of the toughest guys on the team. So if they get along, season 2. If they don't, which they kind of weren't really, then I might have to go with the current, not the current state, but season 4 before the governor attacks, when you have all those characters, because Carol's become so much tougher, Daryl's become so much tougher, and everybody there has had to survive and go through so much that minus the illness, and the numbers, I think that might have to be the toughest group, with the exception of, like I said, if Shane and Rick got along in season 2 near the end there with Andrea and everybody, that's like my ideal group if they got along and they were able to sort of, one of them was to take a number 2 position rather than, always fighting for leadership. Either Shane wants, pretty much dead already. He wants to take over the group and opens the barn and does all those things without Rick's consent. If they actually got along together. So maybe at a point when they just came back from 18 miles out, if something was to happen there, right then would be the toughest, before Lori tells Shane that if Rick wasn't there, that they would still be together. Before that, before she starts messing up the whole thing, that's probably the toughest the group has ever been. I think anyway, my opinion. Either that or season 4 current state. Yeah, I would have to say so. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about the topic. It's a heavily interesting and debatable topic of when you think the group was the strongest, was the toughest. I say either late season 2 or season 4, depending on whether or not you think Shane and Rick could have gotten along together if they were attacked by themselves from the season 4 version of themselves. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. Anyway, if you guys have any other video suggestions, please feel free to write them in the comments below or PM me. Need some more topics because we've got still about a month left until The Walking Dead returns. So anyway, I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.